F91 versus CranK. Let's get the show on the road!
And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Let's get the show on the road. Is in the top right-hand corner, we have F91, our blue Zerg player, representing WTL, and representing the foreign scene, we have CranK as the red Terran. Oh my god. Let's go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the beginning of the end. Welcome to day number 1 of the WTL 2023 Winter Codes playoffs. The first day of the entire playoffs here, and we are starting things off with a bit of a show match. Earlier, I believe half an hour ago or so, there was another show match. There was Chalse versus Rotterdam. They did end up finishing up their show match, and we are here with the second show match of the evening before the main event, before the playoffs, before the big teams duke it out. We have some show matches between our lovely casters. Of course, CranK up against F91. F91, for those who are unaware, is the Chinese caster for WTL, for SC Boy. He is the equivalent of Chalse, I should say. F91 and Chalse are the equivalent of Tastosis in the Chinese scene. So they have quite a lot of notoriety behind them, quite a lot of hype behind them. In general, they're great guys. And they're up against some of the casters. We had Roddy, of course, as an English caster. We have CranK here as a Korean caster. And it's not just that they're up against casters, they're also up against players they're up against people that are part of teams that are a part of, the playoffs. Of course, CranK representing Onside, and we have Roddy representing Basilisk as well, as they were actually the top two teams of WTL Summer. So again, great to see the teams getting involved like this. There's a little bit less on the line. It's a best of one, really bragging rights more than anything. And last season, CranK had a really rough time. CranK played and competed in WTL for the first time in years. In years, he competed in StarCraft. Of course, he used to be a pro back in the day. He used to be a very, very powerful Protoss player in his own right. And then he switched to random, and then he stopped playing. Then he started full-time casting for many years, and now he is back. And he has been tightening things up, and really interesting to see that he is off racing. Part of that may just be because his Terran is a little bit closer ranked to the Zerg of F91. So to make things a little bit more fair, CranK is going to be playing the Terran race instead. And a TvZ, it's going to be an interesting one. I haven't had the luxury of casting CranK in a very long time. I think the last time I casted CranK was last season in WTL Summer during the show matches then, where we casted CranK in a PvP against Rotterdam, where Rotterdam just like all-in him. He all-ined him on, almost at Submarine, on the small map. Oh my god, it hasn't even been a season. I can't remember the name of the goddamn map. You know what I'm talking about. Near Humanity, that's it. He all-ined him on Near Humanity. We'll never forget. Behind this, interesting. We have CranK going for a 1-1. Never mind. I was going to say CranK is going for a 1-1-1, and he is, and he also isn't. That's a second starport on the way. This could be 2-port BC or 2-port Banshee. 2-port something. What exactly? Yet to be determined, as I believe there are no tech labs, so there's no add-on swap potential from the rack. So this looks like Fusion Core. This looks like a battle cruiser rush. CranK whipping out a bit of a Gumiho here. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryung actually coached him in this build. I've seen Ryung do this before, so this would make sense. Meanwhile, across the map, F91 going for a very fast lair, by the way. Things are popping up. Okay, so there's the Fusion Core, so we are going for a 2-port BC rush. Meanwhile, F91 with I think it was like a 3-minute 30 lair timing. It was very fast, and with that, he could go for a Link Queen Nidus all in. He could try to go 2-base Spire and 2-base Muta. Gases are being taken. Second gas is on the way. I'm really curious to see when and where the third and fourth gas will be taken, if at all, for F91. There it is. There's Roach Warren. So there's no second and third gas, but we are going for a Roach Rush nonetheless. Now, with, of course, this lair, we can go straight into Roach Speed, or we can go into something a little bit crazier, like something like a Nidus. Meanwhile, the Viking has arrived, and this is a tell. This is already a tell here that something is wrong. A Viking opener can lead into Battle Cruiser. It could also lead into a Liberator-based opener as well. So F91 has a piece of the puzzle. I'm sure BCs are in the back of his mind. But even if it's a BC opener, little does he know that it is going to be 2-port BC. Meanwhile, with the fast lair, I assumed it was going to be Mutas. We didn't see any gases, but it is going to be a late Spire and late Mutas here from F91. I mean, I say late, a little bit later than what would have usually been a 2-base Spire play. Gas is now being taken, and with this fast spy, we can rush into Mutas or even Corruptors. So all in all, this is a pretty good position for F91. Blindly going to the Spire upon seeing the Viking is a really good reaction, really good response here from the Terran player, from the Zerg player. Meanwhile, again, we still don't know it is BC though. That's the thing. And there we go. Yamato's on the way, and CranK should be pushing with his first 2 battle cruisers. And if there aren't enough queens, then F91 is going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, I believe he has around 6 to 7 queens. I'm uncertain as to the exact number here. Shout out to the WTL admins and observers, of course, as they are covering this. And yeah, we'll see if we can pull everything together again. There we go. We have 6 queens here. I believe we have 8 queens in total, soon to be a 9th and 10th queen. Battle cruisers are amassing. Here we go. And there we go. We're immediately going to be teleporting across over into the main base. Spore is done. Spore is in position. Spore is in position for some Banshee play, though. That is, Corruptors are on the way. I'm sure the BC was heard when it did teleport. Link's going to be dipping on in. Hellions going to be shutting them down. And here we go. The BCs are diving into that main. Going to be diving into the main base. Spore is going to be focused on a couple of drones as well. Looks like the Spore will fall. There's not enough energy for Transfuse. We get the Spore. We will barely get the Queen as well. But fighting toe-to-toe with all these queens, it's not going to work out well here for F91. For CranK. He has to back off. He has to retreat. And he cannot teleport because he teleported in. Uh-oh. At the same time, though, a massive massive Hellion run by. And it looks like we will get a hold of some of these drones here, but there are Lings in position. The Lings will clean this up. This is not worth it here for CranKy, and he was not expecting the Corruptors to already be out at this point. And both BCs are going to be going down, and CranK in a world of hurt right now. He lost both battle cruisers, and he lost every single Hellion. This opener from CranK, this build, has not paid off. It's a really tough position here for CranK. And we'll see if he can recover from here. Now, there's always potential. There's always potential with these Hellions. He can always go for a Hellion run-by and get into a mineral line. Meanwhile, BCs, they have Yamato. They do pick off 2 Corruptors. Good pickoffs here so far from CranK. But yeah, the Hellions always have potential to deal some economic damage. Say with battle cruisers, they can always gain value over time. There we go. 2 more factories on the way. It is going to be mech out of CranK. It is going to be a more mech style. And again, CranKy's going to have to... It's a difficult position. I was going to say he's going to have to try to turtle up, but the reality is that turtling up is not good enough to get ahead. Like, he does need to take some risks. He needs to take some chances here when it comes to his BC movement and his Hellion movement as well. Now, remember, these BCs, they have a teleport. They have teleport now reset on them. The cooldown has reset, so we have to make use of it. We have to be active. We have to move out, catch a couple of Overlords, Queens, drones, whatever we can get. And then, of course, trade efficiently and teleport all the way back home. We need to be quite active here to gain value. And, I mean, CranK is at least moving out with his Hellions. Like, the scary thing is, though, that if he does misstep, if he loses his BCs, that's going to be game. Other drones? Up! Oh, again, a bit of a misrally here from CranK. Lings, they do trickle in, though. They're going to be shut down by the Hellions. Drones as well, taking a lot of damage. And CranK diving on those workers. We'll be pulling back. BCs are going to be soon waddling on forward as well. And here we go. The BC is going to be going into the main base. Corruptors, it looks like they might barely be out of position, so there's potential for some damage here before we have to teleport away. Meanwhile, that's a lot of Hellions here towards the south. Oh my god. Massive amount of Hellions ready to go for another dive. BCs have arrived. They're going to be focusing on the Queen. Here come the Corruptors. We do have to teleport the hell out of here. We get you 1 Yamato. 1 Corruptor. Both BCs do make it out. But again, there are just so many... Oh my god, that's a lot of Corruptors. And the BCs don't have a lot of support. Cyclone production has commenced. We do have... I almost said Macfield accelerators. We have Hurricane Thrusters on the way for those Cyclones as well. CranK has a pretty formidable army. He's up to, oh my god, 85 workers. I just realized his SCV count is insane. Much higher than I thought we would get to here. 86 SCVs already. Been non-stop pumping out those workers. The army is amassing. Roach is going to be pushing on forward. We can see the BCs have to fall back here to the safety of these SCVs. The Taurus as well. Yamada is going to be going off. We're going for a mass repair. But the Roach Ravager, or the Roaches at least, they're breaking through these Cyclones. First BC goes down. Second battlecruiser does fall as well. We're down to 2 BCs, but the ground army does crumble. Again, the Cyclones are able to come out just in time, and F91, he is hurting. Now, what's really killing F91 here isn't this fight, it's his lack of workers. He cut workers at 66. Very low drone count. And this means after losing a fight, F91 cannot remax. He cannot remax, he cannot rebuild because of his low worker count. CranK is the one snowballing out of control. CranK, he has 91 SCVs. TY, is that you? It's the CranK. 91 workers here, plus mules on top of that. His economy is booming. Because of that, CranK, he can remax very quickly, very efficiently. And F91, again, is struggling to rebuild, still stuck at 67 workers. Ay. There we go. We do have a handful of drones on the way for F91. Finally going to be joining up past 70. But it may just be too little too late when it comes to the economy of the Zerg player. F91 going to be trying to engage with these BCs. BCs that teleport away. Big Yamatos go off. Mass repair once again. Oh, a bit of an overextension here from CranK. We'll be losing a lot of his Cyclones. Yeah, a rough moment for him. This CranK is going to pull back. And with that, we are going to be calming things down for a moment here. Again, CranK is going to be the first to max. This is the important thing. Because CranK has had a higher worker count for longer, he is maxing out first. F91 is finally joining up to 85, which is nice. But again, it's only a recent thing. His drone count is very recent here, so he still doesn't really have the economy to sustain himself. He's still working on 2-2 infestation, now on the way for Hive Tech. CranK, he is running away with this so far. He is getting better at control, despite the rough opener. Remember, the initial BC harass did nothing. CranK lost his first 2 battlecruisers. It was a disastrous start. CranK, he lost his BCs and he lost his Hellions. It was on F91. It was on F91 to capitalize on that, and he didn't. He put himself all in. This middle line's going to be going down the base potentially as well. BC's coming from the right-hand side. Do we have the teleport? We do. Every single BC does survive, just barely. 20 workers go down. The Roach is trying to collapse on top of these Cyclones. And we will be catching some Cyclones, at least a good half of them. But from here, CranKy's actually remaxing on more Cyclones. He's sprinkling in a couple of tanks as well. We have Infestors on the way. That will help. That will help F91. Don't get us wrong. There's going to be 4 Infestors. We have Neural Parasite being researched. For the time being, we will have Fungals, which will help. Neural can be effective as well. It does depend. Neurals, of course, can be key against battlecruisers, but that's only if we have control of the ground army. If we don't, then, of course, CranK can just collapse on those Infestors and can free his BCs from their control. Here we go. We are pushing across the map. Infestors not quite ready for this. Neural not ready either. Yeah, this base is being broken. We even pull a couple of boys here to repair. And we do have to give it up. F91 pulling back here to the high ground. Trying to amass his army. And he has potential here with a couple of Fungals. There we go. He does look down those Cyclones. Tank's a little bit too far back. There we go. The mass Yamato going to be going up here onto those Corruptors. And the Corruptors, they are going to fall. There's not enough anti-air. The BCs will reign supreme. And fun fact, without Corruptors, nothing else shoots up. The Roaches, they break through the Cyclones, they break through the tanks, but they can do nothing against the battlecruisers. CranK, he's going to be rolling on into this. Every single Infestor going to be going down. They have no more energy. They can do nothing. The last Infestor falls. We're pushing into the natural. We have 8 Corruptors in production, but as they pop out, they can do, again, nothing to this army. As we get on top of that Spire. You can see the Roaches going for a counterattack, but we have reinforcements back at home. We still are building tanks, Hellions, Cyclones as well. And CranK, he is running away with this. Again, had a disastrous start, but was able to recover. Was able to bounce back in the end. It was on F91, and again, he's the one who caught workers early on to put himself in an all-in position. CranK was able to take advantage of him, as again, he's just camping this area in between the bases. Corruptors, they want that final... Oh! They want the final BC. CranK will not let him have it. They go for the dive. They do pick off one. One BC goes down. Only one. And we're not stopping. We're rallying everything else across the map, now with the ground army as well. Looking at the units tab, F91 only has queens and corruptors. No roaches, no lings. Oh my, we go for the mule? CranK. Bappy. Even if it's for the repair. Oh my god. We don't have to style it in that much, Bappy. Calm down. GG. And with that, CranK will take down F91. We'll get his revenge from last season. Oh, as we do have, I believe that's Maxed and XY. Oh, let's go. Shout out to our lovely pro gamer casters. I mean, this is what they do. Because the casters are playing, we get the pro gamers on the casting couch, which I always do appreciate it. Big shout out to Maxed, a big shout out to XY. They are providing us some lovely coverage on their end. On the WTL desk, and yeah, GG, well played. CranK gonna be able to again bring it back here with the mech, and able to take his game. I believe Rotterdam did take down Chauset earlier as well, and up next, I believe we have a 2v2 show match. So the show matches have not ended yet. We will soon be getting into like the meat and potatoes and like the real meat of the overall broadcast tonight eventually with World Team League, but I believe we still have a little bit more fun to have here with some show matches, and I think this 2v2 is going to be CranK and Roddy. Am I crazy? I don't know if there's do we know?
I mean, it didn't say on the announcement, but I just want to say you said meat and potatoes, but I thought the potato already lost.
Boy. Yeah, it is not confirmed on social media. It just says 2v2 event, so I don't know who's gonna be a part of that. Shaking my head, Kurt, shaking my head. There's wondering, there's a bit of a meme going on. I think is Roddy the potato, or is Chauset the potato, or do they both want the potato?
I think Chauset is the potato. I think that's his like Chinese nickname.
Yeah, I think because I remember Roddy said that the last time he lost to Chauset, like a bunch of like Chinese fans mailed him potatoes or something.
Yeah. And also
something like that.
I don't know if you saw, but the new gift box also has like a potato. I don't know if it was a stick. No. It's like a potato bag with sunflower seeds for some reason.
Yeah. It's the potato in the sun. It's there you go. I just saw on Twitter, WTL tweeted out, "Congratulations to Rotterdam for destroying potatoes again," and then they show a picture of mashed potatoes. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I'm just quickly checking here the gift bag as we are getting ready for the 2v2. Again, I'm not too sure who's or how the 2v2 is being constructed and what exactly is going on with it, but we're here to find out. We're here to find out. I guess. Oh, let's go. Okay, so I think it's gonna be CranK and Roddy versus F91 and Chauset, I believe. And right now they're discussing strategies here with how to approach it. I'm really curious to see what race CranK plays, because he is a random player, or like he can play all three races at a pretty high level. So I'm curious if he does embrace Terran again, just to like kind of warm up with it, or if he whips out the Protoss, or if he whips out the Zerg. I am curious.